Hey guys, it's Amber. I would try and explain this crazy thing that happened in the roleplay like ages and ages, eons ago, which was this crazy love triangle between Luxord and Xaldin and Xigbar. So I started into the roleplay with Luxord having a thing for Xigbar, who pretty much was Xigbar and flirted with anyone and everyone. And was usually flirting with Demyx. So of course my Luxord was, not really looking for a relationship with Xigbar because he figured whatever, he's interested in Demyx. So at some point our Xaldin shows up, and one minute he's being Xaldin, and the next he's suddenly interested in Luxord, just, hey, I'm gonna go see what Luxord's doing, for no reason. So he goes and finds Luxord, and Luxord's like, oh hey, I was just about to go to the kitchen because I'm kind of hungry, and I was wondering if maybe I could convince you to make me something to eat. And Xaldin's like, bitch, what? I don't make food for nobody. And Luxord was like, oh, I guess I gotta go make your kitchen dirty then. So, Xaldin's like, no, fuck that, I'll make you some food. I don't want anybody going in my kitchen and messing with my kitchen. So they go to the kitchen, and he makes him a sandwich, and they're chatting while he makes him the sandwich. And he says some weird stuff. Xaldin is really weird. And Luxord's, wondering if maybe he said something, and Xaldin's contemplating maiming him. But, they're sitting there, and he's eating his sandwich, and Xaldin's like, hey, I kind of feel like doing something else right now. And, of course, Xaldin's talking about jamming his tongue down Luxord's throat, whereas Luxord's like, oh, is he going to cut off my fingers? And so Luxord's like, hey, do you want to play a game of cards? And he's like, I just got off this big mission, so I'm kind of tired. How about we just play Go Fish? And Xaldin's like, well, let's make it interesting. How about, do you want to put a bet on it? If I win, you answer me 3 questions, and if you win, I'll make you another sandwich. And so Luxord's like, okay, that seems fair enough. 3 questions for a sandwich. He's a fairly open book. There's not a lot of, stuff that he's super secretive about. And plus, he's really curious, what does Xaldin want to know so badly? Long story short, his luck kind of runs sour and he loses. And Xaldin's first question, which was just, so fail, he's like, are you gay? Which is just so out there, right away. Such a, just no subtlety at all. And Luxord's like, yeah, what about it? And he's like, second question, so if I were to kiss you right now, you wouldn't attack me? Which, of course, has Luxord flipping his shit internally. Not on the surface. He's Luxord. Internally, he's like, oh, okay, so this is what all the weirdness was about. I didn't see this coming. What's going on? So he, says, well, hey, you're attractive and everything, but we don't really know each other that much. We don't talk a lot. I think I'd have to get to know you better. And of course, the whole time he's thinking, I like Xigbar, but do I really want to hold out and wait for something that's probably never going to happen? Or, do I want to try and explore this with Xaldin? And he doesn't, lead Xaldin on or anything. He just says, maybe we should get to know each other better. And I don't remember if there was another question. If there was, it wasn't important. So Xaldin breaks out the booze and starts getting drunk and gets very flirty in a very scary way. I started to fear for Luxord's body. I was afraid that there was going to be some, rapage or something. And luckily, ever wonderful Seven, came and rescued Luxord from the kitchen with a very unlikely heroine, Larxene. Really seriously, when do you expect her to be the rescuer? But she takes him to go watch their prisoner at the time because she's bored, and the prisoner at the time happens to be Ienzo, Xexian's Heartless. Well, at some point, Xigbar goes to find Luxord and sees Ienzo and has a mental breakdown. So Luxord's like, oh shit, and he sort of plays nursemaid for a bit. And there was something about a book in which Xigbar had written down stuff like what to do if he had a mental breakdown. I guess his mental breakdowns happen a lot or something. But yeah, and on the list of things was Luxord as a calming presence. And Luxord's like, well, I guess that's news to me that I'm that important. And Xigbar wakes up, and it comes out that they have an interest in each other. And Luxord is thinking, well, I don't want to take advantage of him, but Xigbar's making all the moves. They kind of, kiss or whatever. So Luxord's like, hey, you haven't eaten in a while. Kitchen and eat. So they're eating, and Xigbar's being, very openly touchy-feely, like hanging on him, arm around his waist. Well, Alexei and Zexion see this, so of course they know that there's a relationship here. Well, later the next day, Xaldin is cleaning the kitchen in a wife beater and flip-flops and hip hugger jeans. Is anybody else getting vibes of Dallyrodel's Dumbledore? Yeah, because I am. But, so he's sitting there and he's thinking, who could Luxord be interested in? Because obviously if he doesn't want to jump right into Xaldin's pants, he must be interested in somebody. And he comes to the conclusion that Xigbar is the least likely for him to be interested in, so that's who he must be interested in. I don't understand why it's least likely. I mean, they're time and space. There's a thing there with time continuum. It makes sense to me, but whatever. He gets mad. He gets really mad. Well, right about the same time, Naminé and Luxord and Xigbar run into each other right outside of the kitchen. And, well, Naminé was going to get something to eat, and Luxord was going to go with her. And Xigbar was just sort of there, and Xaldin sees the two of them together and says some snarky shit to them that kind of hints at him having a problem with them being together. Naminé doesn't really understand what's going on. All that she knows is that Xaldin's suddenly being a dick to her, saying that he doesn't have any food for her. So Luxord's like, Naminé, you run along. And, he goes and he gets all pissy and he gets some food because he's like, look, bitch, you got a problem with me, that's fine, but don't bring Naminé into it because that's my cupcake. But, so he's like, don't bring Naminé into it. And he goes and he gives her some food and everything. Well, he goes and he hunts down Xaldin, who has gone out to the Dark City to cry. Yeah. Xaldin in the Dark City crying. But he goes out to the Dark City to talk to Xaldin and tell him, hey, I didn't mean to lead you on. I didn't mean, there was nothing between me and Xigbar when we talked. This just happened. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. So they sort that out, sort of. He's like, okay, I'm going to think about it. And Luxord's like, I'll give you your time. I don't want to cause any problems between you and Xigbar, because you guys are best friends, whatever. So he goes off, and he's doing his thing, get ready for this new mission. And while that's going on, Xigbar finds Xaldin, and they chat. And somehow it comes out that they like each other, and they sort of cuddle, and they did kiss. There was all this, well, they never, did anything that could have been cheating on Luxord. No, fuckers, they kissed. They did. I think, like, twice. And they ended up going back to Xaldin's room, or Xigbar's room, somebody's room, to cuddle. I don't know that it was really cuddling, but they ended up cuddling, and Larxene sort of popped in to say something to Xaldin, and she took a picture, because, when is she ever going to pass out blackmail? So, later, fast forward into the mission. She's, of course, giddy about telling Marluxia about what she found out about, the two of them cuddling. She's like, oh, I've got gossip. And pretty much, Zexion hears about it, and Zexion's like, wait, hey, I thought that Luxord and Xigbar had a thing. Now you're telling me that Xigbar and Xaldin have a thing? Something isn't kosher here. And so, he's figuring, oh, okay, I'll talk to Xaldin about it later. Sorry, Xigbar about it later. But they don't get a chance, really, to talk about it until after Larxene makes a offhand comment to Xigbar, just jokingly about him having more than one girl at home. And Luxord's like, yeah, why don't you go ahead and explain that to me? Because he's kind of, going, well, what's this about? And Larxene realizes that Xigbar's cheating on Luxord and sort of flips her shit on him because she hates cheaters. And it was great. But yeah, basically, it all ended up with Xigbar flipping his shit and deciding he was going to rip out his eye because he blamed his eye for his inability to pick between Luxord and Xaldin, which I didn't understand. I don't remember what Xaldin did. I know that our Xaldin RP ended up leaving, and so basically we've just kind of forgotten the whole flip-flops fiasco and tried to just be Xaldin. But Luxord ended up joining the Coup Club, so he's BFFs with Larxene and Marluxia now, which also puts him in a position to, watch over Naminé and make sure that even if she's used in Marluxia's plans, she's not mistreated. But, yeah, so he's in the Coup Club now, so that's where crazy love triangles end up, is fucking up Xemnas' plans.